Good morning. It is currently 6:27 a.m. on Wednesday, February 11th, 2015. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, yesterday I spent part of the video talking about the news that Spider-Man will finally be able to come home to Marvel in form of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Big news, obviously. Yesterday, though, after I made my video, the internet finally had time to react, not to my video, but the news itself. And at least in the online circles that I follow, the news was mixed. And I was going to say surprisingly mixed, except I guess I'm not all that surprised. I mean, a lot of the things that people were complaining about, I thought I either, shared those feelings or thought like they were maybe making a bigger deal over something that was, semi-reasonable, but, taking it further than I would. But in any case, I felt that I had a lot more to say about it. In fact, probably, if I had a mind to, I could probably talk about Spider-Man every day for weeks. Anyway, so there's a number of different things that happened yesterday, right? So there's the Welcome Home Spidey hashtag, and then there's also the Put Spider-Man in Every Movie hashtag, which I think was probably, mostly just for fun, but also kind of semi-sincere, semi-satirical in terms of are people happy about this news or not. But I guess I want to focus on some of the people who were not happy and the reasons that might be. So if you watched my video yesterday, you'll know that I also issued the caveat that I was not especially thrilled that it meant that some of Marvel's other movies, including Black Panther and Captain Marvel, were going to be delayed as a result of making room in the schedule for a new Spider-Man movie. I'm actually also not 100% sure why it's necessary, given that the news has indicated that Sony is making the movie under Marvel's creative direction. But it's Sony's movie. Sony's going to still make the profits from it. It's just that there will be creative direction from Marvel. Although I suppose, Kevin Feige of Marvel Studios is just one guy. He can only do so much, so maybe if he wants to still be hands-on with all of these different movies, he needs time to do that, so maybe that's why. So I will certainly share people's frustration that, I'm excited for those movies, and having to wait longer for them is not ideal. However, I would also argue they're not being canceled, just being pushed back in order to make room for what is probably the biggest news to come out of Marvel Studios in years. Spider-Man is a big deal, in my opinion anyway, and so while I'm not happy they're being delayed, I wish they weren't being delayed. The reason they are being delayed is still, in my opinion, an unambiguously good thing. I just, it has side effects that are not always the best. Not what I would prefer. The other aspect that I've seen a lot of people talking about is in terms of the new standalone Spidey movies. First, people complaining that they don't want another origin story. Well, let me put your fears to rest right now. The Marvel Studios guys have already said in an interview last summer that they don't want to do any more origin story movies. They've said this already. They're even talking about with Doctor Strange, who's a character that has much less mainstream familiarity, and they're talking about not having his movie be an origin story movie, but rather to just start in media res, so to speak. You don't think that they're going to do that with Spider-Man 2, especially given that they understand that people might have some spider fatigue, given the way the character's been treated, over many years, with, many movies that were not all great. Although, some of them were. Let's forget, Spider-Man 2, and that was a great movie. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I'm rambling. I'm going to take up, oh no, I'm already taking up my entire 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to take a few more minutes today. So, the point is, not only have they said in general that they don't want to do any more origin story movies, it's also right in the press release that he's going to be introduced in a different, already existing on the schedule Marvel movie. Everyone's theorizing that it's probably going to be Captain America 3 Civil War, given that in the comics, Spider-Man had a very significant role to play in that story. So they've already said that the Spider-Man for the Marvel Cinematic Universe will be introduced in another movie before getting his own standalone movie. And so it already seems like a given for both of those previously stated reasons that it's not going to be just another origin movie. So if people are worried about that, then let's just go ahead and put that to rest, because I don't think that's going to happen. The other suggestion or complaint, depending on how the person phrased it, is that we should have the new Spider-Man be played by, or the character of the new Spider-Man should be Miles Morales rather than Peter Parker. In particular, Brian Weber left a YouTube comment on yesterday's video saying, "I'm one of the many who would like it to be Miles Morales, largely because Peter Parker has been dead to me since One More Day. But this is Marvel Studios we're talking about here. $5 says we end up with another white guy named Chris in the role. Not that I have any ill will towards the trio of Hemsworth, Evans, and Pratt in her insert law firm joke here. Just looking for a little more variety is all." So first of all, the observation that 3 of the Marvel leads are named Chris is, I mean, I've noticed that before, but it's kind of amazing, isn't it? Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt, Chris Evans. Anyway, at the same time, the idea that it should, you know, I'm not going to touch the One More Day stuff. I could talk about that another time. Anyone who doesn't follow comics enough, don't worry, it's a minefield. Maybe we'll get into it another day if there's interest. But the point is, Miles Morales, who is the current Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe, which in the comics is just like a parallel universe. Miles Morales is great. He is half African American, half Hispanic, which everybody on the internet made a big deal about back when the character first premiered a couple years ago. His character is great. I love reading him in the comics. And let me just go on the record as saying first, if Marvel announced they were going to go with Miles Morales as the new Spider-Man, I would be thrilled. I think that would be a great idea. I would really enjoy it. I would be excited about it. However, there's so many reasons, not specifically tied to the color of his skin, that they would want to stick with the iconic identity of, you know, their character. I believe that they would cast a black actor as Peter Parker before they would use the character of Miles Morales. For example, like 20th Century Fox did with Johnny Storm in the new Fantastic Four movie that they're doing. Who knows if that movie will be any good, but just the idea of, you know, race bending the traditional appearance of certain iconic characters. But the problem is, if you want to make a Spider-Man movie, you want to make a Spider-Man movie because people know and like Spider-Man, right? And so there have been so many examples in recent years of showing that a movie cannot cater exclusively to superfans of any particular genre, and comics in particular. The Marvel movies have been so successful largely because while they are appealing to comics fans, they're not only for comics fans. And the risk with Miles Morales, even though he's a great character, I would love if they did it. He's just not known like Peter Parker is. He doesn't have the huge backstory wealth of existing storylines and material to draw from. And besides, I mean, the problem is everybody, like, there's so many people in the world who, if you said, who's Spider-Man, they would say Peter Parker. And the risk is you make a movie where it's not Peter Parker, and people are going to be confused. And if you don't want another origin story movie, well, I suppose people would probably make an exception for the origin story complaint if it was for Miles instead of Peter. But the point is, it seems very unlikely that they would do it for a number of very understandable reasons, even if those reasons are probably related to they want the movie to make a lot of money, as opposed to they want it to be a step forward in terms of groundbreaking storytelling. So I guess the point is, although I would love it if that's what they did, because Miles Morales, as I said, in the comics, is a great character, and I think he would be a great Spider-Man. But even in the Ultimate Comics, it was Peter Parker first. And then Miles's whole arc is that he's taking over for Peter, who came before him. And so I think if Marvel was going to do a movie with Miles Morales, they would do it years down the line. They're going to get a new Peter, and maybe at some point, if the actor playing Spider-Man gets too old or wants too much money or something, you know, they go with Miles instead. So I guess the point is, there's a lot of people acting like they're not even going to go see the movie unless it's Miles. And I don't know, I feel like anyone who says that, I don't believe you. There might be some people who are sincere and would really do it. But the point is, I feel like anyone who has a strong enough feeling about Spider-Man to react to this news, who knows enough about Spider-Man to even know who Miles is and care about who he is as a character, is probably a big enough Spider-Man fan that when Marvel finally gets their hands on the character, don't you want to see what that's going to be? I sure do. They haven't let me down yet. I like all of Marvel's movies so far. Some more than others, of course. But the other thing is, too, that like when we talk about not using Miles Morales or delaying the Black Panther and Captain Marvel movies, I'm not just trying to be a Marvel apologist here, but let's not ignore what they're also doing. Certainly in the movies, we haven't had the Black Widow movie yet that people talk about. You know, we're delaying the the Black Panther, Captain Marvel movies. But let's also remember what they're doing in the TV space right now, right? They've got Agent Carter, who is just hitting it out of the park every week right now. What a great character that is. And it's not only a TV show with a female main character, but it's also a female main character, first of all, that people didn't know before. Like, she was introduced as a secondary character in Captain America. And so that's a character that they went with because people responded to that character. And they're making a show that, like I said, is not just about a female main character and then that's all there is to it, but they're making a story where that matters to the story, that she's a woman. It's not just a placeholder story that could have been for anyone. They're making a story where it matters, her identity matters, and that's part of the story. And then, although Daredevil is the first one to be coming up, in terms of the Netflix Marvel projects they've talked about, they're also going to have Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, who's African American. And I think that Marvel in general is showing, and in the comics, of course, they've had Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, take over for Captain America at the moment. They've got Thor as a female character right now. That's a whole thing. But the point is, I think Marvel is showing us that they do care about, you know, diversity and representation and variety and good storytelling, sometimes even when it means pissing off the core hardcore comic books fans that might resist those sorts of changes. And so I guess my point is, in my opinion, Marvel has earned a really substantial benefit of the doubt. I want to see what kind of stories they're going to tell. You know, I think there is certainly still room for criticism. I think it is perfectly fair for people to express that they would like it to be Miles Morales. It won't be. They're talking about Peter Parker in the press release. But you could say that you would like it to be, and make that feeling clear, and that will be further validation to Marvel that that sort of thing is generally the direction they want to be moving in. But you know, don't you want to see what Marvel, the studio that's brought us the Avengers and the Iron Man movies and the Thor movies and Captain America, taking Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, characters that tell me how much you cared about those characters before those movies came out. I mean, some of you maybe did, but for me, I really had very little interest in those characters. But the Marvel Studios made me love them. Think about Guardians of the Galaxy, how weird a concept that was and how great that movie was. For me, they haven't missed yet. And for them to give that treatment to the character that I've loved since I was a little kid, I can't not be excited for that, even if there are other issues swirling around on the periphery. So I don't want to tell anybody else how they should feel about anything, but I am thrilled and just want to also encourage Marvel to keep going in this direction of giving everybody a hero that they feel like can represent them, and to have the storytelling back that up, to not have it just be about diversity for diversity's sake, but rather to say, let's improve diversity because it leads to great storytelling also. And to tell exciting stories about a variety of different characters. And let's encourage them to keep moving in that direction and even to move faster, but not to act as though they're not moving at all. And I think it's easy sometimes with heavily trafficked on the internet news like the Spider-Man announcement to settle accidentally into memes of ideas like the not another origin movie thing, because like they've already said that that's not what they're going to do. Now, I suppose there's time for it to be whatever. They could change their minds, but I mean, let's not pillory a movie for sins that it hasn't committed yet when all of the available evidence suggests that they're not going to commit it. And let's not imply that a movie is going to be terrible just because it's not the one very specific thing that you wanted them to do instead. I feel like Marvel Studios has earned the right to come up with its own story and then present it to me, because when they've done that so far, I've enjoyed it. And so, again, not to be a Marvel apologist, not to just tell people what they should be feeling about this news, but I'm excited. And I think that everyone else should be too. And I'm going to tell you, you should be excited, and I'm going to apologize, be an apologist for Marvel. Okay, so I think I'm just rambling at this point. Oh, God, almost 20 minutes. I could keep going. I could totally keep going. I didn't even touch the One More Day stuff. I didn't talk about comics or all the different cartoon versions or the different ways they could handle it, or how Spider-Man might fit into the Civil War storyline and how it would have to be different from the way that comics happen just because of the state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. You guys just want 5 more minutes to be all about comics from now on, or even just about Spider-Man? Anyway, can't talk any more about it right now because I got to go to work. But remember, you can find all of my stuff at christianaellis.com, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes, or maybe more.